All right, so I thought this morning I could give you guys maybe a little bit of a motivational speech. Just maybe it's not motivational, I don't know. Just give you a little bit of my background to tell you why I'm standing here right now. I took auto mechanics in high school because I hated high school. It was just what I picked, and I don't think we learned a whole lot. My fault that we didn't learn a whole lot. I didn't care to. We just kind of did whatever and put ourselves up in a car and up on a lift and sleep all day, that kind of stuff. That was I think I graduated high school with a 1.6 grade point average. Not I think. That was my senior year grade point average. It was 1.6. It was actually 1.666. I remember that number for obvious reasons, like figures. But my older brother came here to Rosedale. He's 14 months older, so he started a year before me. And I remember him being here for 2 months and having more knowledge than I had in 2 years of being at tech school and high school. And I was pretty impressive. I mean, part of it, of course, is it's a college. It's not high school anymore. You know, you got to do your thing. But I remember seeing that with him, and so that was my path. Is okay. I'm gonna follow my older brother here. And so where we are now, Rosedale Tech graduate. That's me. I don't know if you guys knew that. Did you know I was here? I graduated here. It was 1993 was my graduating year. But you know, it was definitely eye-opening for me, you know, and I was still into partying and doing whatever, but I remember going through engine class and liking it, and then getting into brake and suspension class, and I really was like, man, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. I mean, I really had that mentality where I was like, I don't think this is right for me. And, you know, I'm going to continue because my brother's here and whatever, and I got to electrical class, and I got a D on the first test in basic electrical. And I remember the teacher, Mr. Savitko. You guys know Savitko? He retired. It's going to be a shame when no one knows Savitko's name anymore when I say that to the next class or two. But I remember him challenging me and saying some derogatory comment, if you know Dan, about my D. You know, basically looking at me, long hair, you know, clearly a pothead. I remember him challenging me, and I was kind of insulted by it because I knew I was smarter than that. I knew I could do it. That was part of it, but the other part was I found electrical and electricity fascinating. And then I watched my peers in my class, and I realized, man, nobody really likes this stuff. And I still see that same pattern today, that this area is very few people like it. You have to like it to get good at it. So I loved it, and that's really what I made a career out of, was doing this. I remember, you know, that third class being here and saying, okay, I think I can do this. Some other snags along the way, I'm sure some of you guys have heard it, you know, where you have, how many of you guys have been discouraged by someone you know that said, what are you going to school for auto mechanics for? I see a couple heads, yeah. I see it and hear it all the time. This is only a few weeks ago. I just did a case study on a Ford truck at my one garage I work for, and I brought the camera with me. I was showing like start to finish. Like I didn't even tell the guys when I walked into the garage. I was bringing the camera with me, and I walked through the doors with the camera already on, and they were making fun of me because they know what I'm doing. And the one guy, and he says he was kidding, but this is the norm. And he said, he looked at the camera and said, any of you guys watching out there, don't enter this field. I mean, I hear that all the time. Why do we have such a negative idea of what a mechanic is? I don't know. But I heard it too, and I remember people saying to me, you're not going to make any money in this field, you know, and I'm sitting here and I'm paying all this money to go to school. What do you mean I'm not going to make any money in this field? And when I started, this is 93, I started at $8.10 an hour. Now I was making $6 an hour changing oil at the time, and so, you know, a $2.10 an hour raise was awesome. It wasn't great money, but it wasn't, think about it, I don't know what $8 an hour would be today compared to 93, it's not that much different. Maybe 12? What do you guys think? I think 12, maybe. What's our average starting salary out of here now? Maybe $12 to $14 an hour. I'm not totally sure. Let me pause there for a second with my story and just tell you where I think I have made a mistake in the past is getting you guys excited and on board and telling you about six figures, and it is there. There's no question about that. But I think what we do maybe as educators as a whole, and I know this now from being exposed to people everywhere, as a whole, I hear complaints from employers about tech school students. You guys are college, not tech school anymore, right? College students. They come to their shop and they just think they're the best thing since sliced bread, and they want six figures right off the bat. And you have to understand that this field is not like that. You cannot go out here and demand this huge salary just because you've had some formal training. What's going to happen, and this will be discouraging to you, and this is what I saw. When I left the field and I'm making my $8.10 an hour, and then the next year I'm making $9 an hour, and I'm like, yeah, there is no money in this field. I watched a friend of mine, my party buddy, I mean, he's my best friend, enter the field around the same time as me, and he's making the same amount of money. So now I'm like, well, wait a minute. I paid all this money to go to school, and then my friend started in the field and he's making the same amount as me. And so that sucked, you know? So then my third year rolls around, I'm making what, $9.50 an hour. I'm like, yeah, I guess people were right, you know? There's no money in this field. Well, between my third and fourth year, Bethel Park built a Pep Boys, a brand new store. And I heard that they were hiring master techs, which I was. I took the initiative, encourage you guys to do it, to go out and get all your ASEs. You know, within a year of leaving the school, I was a master tech on paper. You're certainly not a master tech with a year and a half in the field. I hesitate to use that name at all. I'm a master tech, because I don't think I'm a master still. You know, this field is always humbling me. And anyway, I heard they were hiring master techs for $20 an hour. I'm like, what? There's no way. I'm making $9.50 an hour. There's no way someone's going to pay me $20. So long story short, I went to the job interview and I was sitting in front of the guy, and he kept saying to me over and over again, what do you want? What do you want? And in my mind, I'm like, $20, you know, because I knew my friend, he said 20, and I didn't have the balls to do it. I should have. It cost me, but he's like, how about $17.50? I'm like, sold, sign me up, you know? So, I mean, I went from $9 an hour to $17.50 between my third and fourth year. And I tell you that because I looked at my friend who started at the field the same time as me, and in his fourth year, he was still making $9 or $10 an hour. And then my third or fourth year, I doubled my pay. How was I able to do that?
Other than dumb luck.
Dumb luck. How was I able to do that? It wasn't, well, it helped that Pep Boys opened a garage and they increased salaries for us techs, but it also was the foundation that I had underneath me for school that, you know, in those first 3 years, my focus was on troubleshooting. I always enjoyed electrical faults and problems. And so I really focused on that. And when I went there to Pep Boys, that was part of what they wanted was, you know, looking for a good drivability guy. And I was like, I can do that. I'm nervous about moving to flat rate, but I can do it. And so that's what happened to me. And it was, I don't know, it was like 20,000 to 40,000 in one move. And I could not have made that jump without some kind of foundation. Because everything I started doing would refer back to what I learned here. And I had Svitko's notes, and it's really what I developed this book, my book now. It was Svitko's guide or outline that I followed, which is I'm going to give you as much troubleshooting techniques as possible that when you get out into the field, you'll be able to refer back to this. Where a lot of our other textbooks when we're here they're real heavy on description, operation, which is good. We need that now. But when you're out in the field, you don't need a good description and operation of how a fuel injector works. You already know that. What you need to know is how to troubleshoot it properly. You know, what can cause flow problems? What's it mean on the scope waveform if that spike is low and things like that. That's really what Svitco did for me, and that's what I've done for you guys. And when I was in the field, I remember specifically being at Pep Boys. It was about 3.5 years in and looking at my Svitco notes and saying, okay, I finally can put these aside. That's my expectations for you guys with my material in this book, is it'll probably be about 3 years before you can put it down and say, okay, I got what's in there and let's continue further. I remember also being at Pep Boys and there were slow times. You start working flat rate. You know, you're shaking your head. Why do you work it?
I work at Pep Boys.
You work at Pep Boys.
Granbury.
Okay, are you an installer?
No.
You're
B-level tech.
That's awesome. Well, this should be encouraging to you, because I have a friend, I'll give you some numbers here on what he's making too. But I remember slow times. And slow times, when you're in this field and you're working flat rate for a big chain company with Firestone, Pep Boys, Goodyear, whatever, Midas, Meineke, when it's slow, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. When a car pulls in, it's like everybody runs to the front and the first guy to grab the repair order, you know, and man, does that lead to a lot of animosity between techs and favoritism. And some of you guys are shaking your head. You know what I'm talking about. Do you know that I never had that problem? You know why I never had that problem? I was the drivability guy. I was the diagnostic guy. I come into work, I'm not kidding. I come into work, there's one car in a 12-bay shop, one car, everybody's sitting around, and there's 3 repair orders under my name. So I work like a 12 to 9 shift on a Friday. I'd roll in on Friday and there's 3 repair orders under my name. What are all 3 of them? Some type of electrical or diagnostic problem. And some guys would complain, you know, oh, Danner's getting all the good work. And so the service manager at times would need to quiet the chatter, and the way he would do that is he would give them one, and we'll see how it goes. And that took care of itself because the car wasn't fixed. And the service manager, the last thing a service manager wants to do is make a second phone call. See, a lot of people in the world think that mechanics are crooks, when in reality what it is incompetence. We're not intentionally trying to, you know, rip you off. The problem is when a technician says it needs this part to fix this problem, the service manager has to call with confidence, right? He's got to call a customer and say, you need this part. I'm sorry, but yeah, you have to spend $1,000 to fix your car. What happens when $1,000 doesn't fix the car? What's the service manager have to do? He's got to call the customer up, and unfortunately, the way it goes, he's got to make something up and say, hey, this fixed this problem, but we need to do this as well. In other words, you need another part. To some, that might seem like that's what the service manager wants to do. I promise you, he doesn't want to make that call. He wants to make one phone call, and he wants to rely on that technician that's underneath him to be confident to make that one phone call. Does that make sense? So can you understand why I had 3 repair orders under my name? And I'm not saying that, it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn a little bit. I'm not saying that to do that. I'm saying that because this area, this part allowed me to do that. This part of the field, the troubleshooting, the diagnostics. Why? Because nobody wants to do it. I never understood that. To me, it's exciting, it's fun, it's awesome, I love it. To some, it's like scratching your fingernails on a chalkboard. And so I know that some of you in here, it will be like that. That's okay too. This field will have other things for you. And it's not a level of intelligence. It really isn't. It's just how our minds are wired. My wife is super smart, but she hates variables. She would not want to do this because it would be the equivalent of somebody scratching their fingernails on a chalkboard while you're trying to learn something. It just hurts your mind, not from an intelligence standpoint, but from I don't want to do this. Does that make sense? There's too many yes, exactly. If this, then that. Well, if this and this, then it's not that, but it could be this. That's what this is.
One big logic circuit.
It really is. If you like that kind of stuff, you're going to love this class. If you don't like that kind of stuff, you're going to hate this class. I'll do my best. You have to be here to get your degree. So I'll do my best to make it interesting, and there'll be maybe a certain level that I can take you and a certain level that maybe you can't follow. I hope everybody is on board, and I have enough stuff to help you guys with that, enough visual stuff, because we all learn different ways too. I know that from having multiple kids, that my kids do not all learn the same way. Some of us learn by reading, some of us cannot retain by reading. Some of us can learn by hearing someone else read, but if we're reading it ourselves, forget about it, right? I am aware of those things, and so I want to encourage you guys again to use as much resources that I have available with the reading, the book, the videos, and then the live work that we're going to be doing, which I think separates us from every other program out there as far as live work goes. All right, so where did I leave off with? Our school's awesome. Rosedale Tech is awesome.
There's money in diagnostics.
There's money in diagnostics. Yeah, there's money in diagnostics. That's a good... Well, I could teach you a couple lessons first on what we talked about, first of all. One is, what I already mentioned, don't expect to leave here and make six figures. You have to pay your dues. This is a trade. We have to learn the ropes first. The money will come, I promise. The second one was the foundation that you get here. I lived it, I saw it. I'm still reaping the benefits to this day of those times in Dan Svitko's class here at Rosedale. The third would be in a job interview. That cost me $2.50 an hour, and it took me about 3 years to get up to that $20 an hour number. So think about that. At $2.50 an hour more for, let's call it 3 years. What would that be? How much money? Who's got a calculator? Let's do it real quick.
$2.50 an hour over 3 years.
Well, $2.50 an hour times 40 hours a week. Do that first. How much is that per week? $100 a week? Mm-hmm. All right, so times 52 weeks. That's $5,200 a year times 3 years. So about 15 grand.
15, 16.
So, okay, good lesson, right? There's one time that you talk good about yourself in this field. When is that? Your job interview, you know? I think it's the one time that I should have said, now that I know, because I found out in hindsight at the time that Pep Boys was paying $18.50 an hour was the minimum master tech salary. Mm-hmm. He undercut me $1. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I was like all on board with it. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. So anyway, cost me 15 grand right there. Yep. 15 grand. Mm-hmm. So let's see, 3 years there maybe, and I had, this is another life lesson here for you guys. I had some other company, a friend of mine working for this company who wanted me to work with him. It's a company that's now closed down. I won't mention the name, but they offered me $30,000 base salary plus $585 an hour flat rate time, and I did all the numbers, and I think at the time I was making about 40-some thousand at Pep Boys, and I did the crunch the numbers. It was like 50-some thousand. It was a no-brainer, right? Well, the main reason that I left Pep Boys, let me back up. Pep Boys offered me $20 an hour to stay, and I think I was at 18 at the time, 18.50, 20 or 21. I turned it down, and the reason that I turned it down is my stupid pothead. Pep Boys does random drug tests, and I wanted to smoke weed again, and this other company didn't do drug testing. How stupid was that? There's a lot more to it with that. In fact, my friend who got me that job is no longer with us. That's kind of a sad story. He hung himself. Just kind of maybe put some negativity on the drug path, you know? It wasn't weed that he hung himself, but we were doing other stupid stuff. And he was like my main drivability go-to guy, my main guy to call. It's my brother now, but at the time it was my friend. But I learned something there too, and that is the company ended up going under, and I was only there for 2 months, and I came crawling back on my hands and knees to Pep Boys at a dollar figure that they no longer wanted to give me. They would hire me back at the what I left at. And I had to give myself a couple weeks to get the weed out of my system, to pass the drug test again, and stupid stuff, man, stupid stuff. That one, I calculated that one, that was like a $10,000 hit right there too.
How old were you?
Well, I started in Pep Boys in 96 or 95. I was pretty young, I was in my 20s.
Wow,
Yeah. I started here September of 2000. So I've been here, man, almost 15 years now. This September will be 15 years that I've been that I'm here. But that one, a lesson learned for you guys is when you're in a job interview like that, well, number one is don't go get a job somewhere because they don't do drug testing. That was stupid. Number two is what I should have asked the guy that was interviewing me and hired me. I should have asked him one question. You know what it was? How long have you been here? He was there for 2 weeks. I should have asked him that. Is there things we need to ask our potential employers in our job interview?
You think you're worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I would have a laundry list of questions now. When you're early on, you don't even know what to ask. My son's 16. He was asking me, last night, like, what should I ask if I go work for, Dairy Queen or something? I'm like, you can't ask for anything. You work for what they pay you. There's nothing you can offer that would say, hey, I'm worth more than minimum wage. I don't know.
Secret ice cream recipe.
Right. I'm cute and the girls will come and you'll make more money. Yeah. My son, he's a good looking kid, thanks to my wife. But 2000, Svitko, of all people, walks into Pep Boys and I see him and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And it's been, I think at 93, so almost 8 years. It was like 7.5 years. And he was talking about this particular class that he didn't want to teach anymore and that they were looking for an instructor for engine performance. He wanted to focus on the electrical and emissions and he just was done with this class. And I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. And then, it's kind of got the wheels turning and I came up for the interview and they offered me like, I don't know, a number that wasn't going to work for me. And I turned it down. And I'd crunched all the numbers already, and about 2 weeks later they called me back and he asked me, what's your bottom line? And I gave him a number and they said, okay. So that was pretty cool. So another lesson there would be, it's okay to say no. If somebody offers you less than what you think you're worth, and you never know what could happen. But it was a pretty substantial pay cut from industry, but I justified it by the 8 to 2 work schedule and having 4 weeks off, which 2 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks for Christmas. And I did all the math, and the time I worked in the field to here was like 2 months less a year, and I crunched the numbers with that in mind. But here's the thing, I needed to make some extra money, so that's where my mobile stuff came in. It just so happened my service manager that I worked at Pep Boys I was under him for almost 5 years, and he got fired. It's all political stuff. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but you guys at work, how many service managers and service writers have you, store managers, they come and go. The techs don't, the good techs don't. But he opened up a shop at the top of Glass Run Road. We used to be in Homestead, and it was actually my route home. I saw him at his garage, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, oh, this is my shop. And I'm like, oh, cool. And it was just kind of beep and wave, for a while. And then I'm like driving past, and he like flagged me down to come in. He's got a check engine light on his car he wants me to look at. And he knows what I can do. We worked together for how long? And, he's like, well, how much you want to do it? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I'm like, $20. I'm on my way home. Yeah, I'll make an extra $20 and put it in my pocket on my way home, tell you what's wrong with the car. And that's where it started. So I'm working for him. On my way home, I'm doing 2 or 3 cars a week, and it's diaper money and formula, whatever. And so then he tells his friend, and now I'm working for 2 people at $20 a car, and and then he tells his friend, and this is maybe a year later, and now I'm working for 3 garages. And I'm like, well, my friend who I mentioned, who's not with us anymore, he's like, you're too cheap. And I took his advice and I doubled my rate. I said, well, if I couldn't keep up, so I'm going to make it $40 a car, And so the one guy complained, and I didn't care, and I was hoping to lose one of them anyway. Then I'd only have 2 I had to worry about. I'd rather make more for less. And so then it just kept growing. And he told his friend, and he told his friend. Before I know it, now it's 6 different garages. I'm doing 40 a car, and I'm like, this isn't enough. I'll make it 50 a car. And then it continued to grow, and it got to the point where, it's at 70 a car. That's where I'm at still, is at 70. And I pulled back a little bit with that because of everything else I got going on. But every time I raised my number, I never lost anyone. And I kept raising the number because I'm too busy. I could do this full time now if I wanted, this mobile diagnostic thing. At one point, at its height, I had 20 different garages calling me with like 10 regulars, meaning multiple cars per week. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And all I would do is go in and tell them what's wrong, and they'd pay me for that, and I leave. And I'm still doing it. You guys can watch my case studies on YouTube. I'm bringing the camera with me now. So it's like I'm triple dipping if you think about it, right? I'm getting paid to fix these cars. At the same time, I'm getting paid to get paid. And it makes my class better. And that was always my focus too. Being removed from the field for 15 years, am I really giving you guys what you need to get out there today? And this is aftermarket. Be clear on that. We're in an aftermarket school, an aftermarket industry from my perspective. Would I be preparing you to be in the field if I was 15 years removed from touching cars? Mm-mm. That's the other advantage of our live work here, is it keeps me sharp too. But you guys are going to find as we go into this class that we'll be talking about something in class, and we'll go out in the shop, and there it will be that day. And it's a live job. And I didn't plan it that way, but it happens all the time. Why? Because the info that I'm giving you is what I'm still using every day. That's why it happens that way. So that's pretty cool. So I don't know if I've kind of painted a picture of all the different avenues that this field has provided for me. And man, I mean, to see it from that angle, from where you guys are right now, I wish someone would have given me some hope, when we hear all this negativity. What are you going to be a mechanic for? To encourage you work at Pep Boys. Bill?
Yep.
My former student, his name's Justin Sonic, and he wouldn't mind if I use his name. He was working he's in the North Hills area, so I think maybe the North. Which one do you work?
Cranberry.
You don't know a Justin Sonic in Cranberry, do you? Okay. He was a student here. I don't know how they graded them, B-level. When I would work there, it was installer, mechanic, and technician. Those were the 3. But he was working for Pep Boys and making like 17 an hour when he was here, because I think he had one of his ASEs. And Pep Boys really puts their pay scale highly on the ASE certs.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, you're at 17? That's awesome. So to follow his path, and we just were together last month. We went snowboarding, so I'm still in touch with him. And he made $68,000 last year. And this is only, is he 4? I think this will be his 5th year being out of here. So that's not too bad, right? 4 years out. I know 4 years out for sure, he made like 60 the year before. He made 68 this year. And he actually, I think he was 26, or maybe he was 28. I don't know. Pep Boys offered him $30 an hour to stay. He turned it down. He went to an independent company, and they were paying him actually a little bit more than that. So that's pretty cool. And I look at him as, he's kind of like my prodigy, He's kind of followed exactly what I did. Diagnostics have been his thing, and Pep Boys is a good company to work for. If you have to create it though. There's probably a lot more negativity from the big chain stores, not just Pep Boys, but any of them. You can't listen to that. Stay the course. Let me teach you something in here. Let me teach you how to be the drivability guy, and you'll love that job. I had no complaints about working there. I didn't have anybody telling me what to do. That's awesome. I mean, to have that ability here, to have a job and nobody's telling you what to do, even at a store level, yeah, granted, there were times I remember getting ready to leave there to come here, that the service manager at the time handed me this an evaporator core in a Dodge Intrepid, and I'm like, no. I just said, no, I'm not doing it. And he's like, if you don't do it, we're not giving you your leave of absence. They gave me a leave of absence to come here just in case it didn't work out. So it's like an 8-hour job. The entire dash has to come out. And I mean, there's times you got to do things you don't want to do, I guess. But most of the time, you pretty much run the show and do what you want. Guys, pay attention to me this class. I'll teach you everything I can that will allow you to follow the same path and make a lot of money. Just keep in mind that money comes with time. And this stuff here, I hear that a lot. How long did it take you to get good at this? I think a safe number is really about 3.5 years. It took me about 3.5 years to absorb everything that I learned from Savitco and put it all together and really start to roll with it. I think it can be less. My friend Justin, I just mentioned, it didn't take him that long, you know? But we learn every day. I think to call myself a master or whatever is actually incorrect. Yeah, I have a piece of paper that says that, but that's just a piece of paper. So I'll share some stories with you later on the last time I talked good about myself. When we get to mass airflow sensors, I'll share that nightmare story with you. Were you here for that, Jeremy? Did you catch that story? Man, I haven't said that since. Somebody asked me what makes me think I can do it. I'll just be like, I don't know, I'll take a shot at it, you know? No promises. The story I want to share with you guys was, I told the customer, I said, because I'm good. Last time I ever said that. So, let's see where that story's going to go. One time we talk good about ourselves is when? Job interview, right? You don't walk into a shop and say, I'm a master tech and I got the tools to prove it. I remember this guy walking in saying that, and all of us wanted to just cut him down right from the get-go. You know, you don't walk into a shop full of guys and say that. There's egos you got to deal with, you know, especially with men, right? I don't know how you ladies handle that, but guys, that just doesn't sit well, you know? Yeah.
Probably a little bit worse.
Yeah.
They have better ego, or bigger egos than we do.
But anyway, any questions for me? I think that concludes my motivational speech. Hopefully you guys are motivated to be here. Let me teach you this so I can help you make money. Let me teach you this. I had a comment this morning. You know what? Let me read it to you. It's that good. And this is the perspective that I want you guys to have and what I'm giving you. And by the way, for you guys too, I have a forum now on my website that we can communicate there. Like if you got a car problem, I have a lot of people that are starting to come in that are really smart too. So it's actually pretty cool. But I had this comment this morning. I hate to read this out loud because it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn. I'll just read the last point. I open his ebook every day and part of the premium channel. People ask me how I learned all this. And I tell them Paul's channel on YouTube, a wealth of knowledge in one place for the career that feeds my family. That's pretty freaking sweet. This is somebody I don't even know who this is. You know what I mean? That's taking the info that I'm throwing out there and feeding his family. I'm not here to BS you guys. The stuff I'm using, I use it, or the stuff I'm teaching, I use it every single day. And I'm learning too, and we'll learn together this term. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. The longer that I've been doing this, the less likely I am to say always and never and give you absolutes. Because I used to say yes, like a direct, so I was thinking more along the lines of you ask me a question and I give you an absolute yes or an absolute no. Okay, good. That's why I hesitated for a second.
With the topic of
Oh, no problem.
Well, we're going to talk about something else that's kind of relating.
And in this field, I think what I've learned is always and never shouldn't be part of your vocabulary. So those are good. Anything else from me, from you guys? I want to make this fun. I want you guys to be here. I'm excited to be here, especially if you're excited to be here. I don't like wasting time either. And I'm trying, as I was off, I was thinking about and developing kind of methods, more methods to keep you guys busy. You know, we can't always have a live job, but with a group this size, we should be able to get a decent amount of live work. One of the things that I haven't had too much issue with this class is live work. There's always somebody that's got some kind of running problem or electrical problem. And if it's within our group and it comes in, if it's a wiper circuit that isn't working, I'm not handing that off. That's our class, it's your friend, we're going to do it. If it's anything electrical, that's the hard part about that class and this class, is if it's electrical, it still follows, you know. I mean, my wipers on my one car are speed sensitive and they're rain sensitive. That's pretty sweet. We don't need to hand that off to basic electrical class. We can hook up a scan tool and read trouble codes from the wiper system. So that's cool, right?
See that, in all honesty, you wanted feedback, keep that up. Because in all honesty, like, for me, the best class that I had was Semino, and it was because he got excited about the shit he was actually
That's cool.
teaching us.
I hate to put that on your shoulders. I need help. It's not on your shoulders, but I need help from you guys. Let me know you care, and then I care. You know, I'm excited. I love this. I love this job. I love what I do. You know, I really am at the point where I could be on my own, but I'm here because I love this. I really do. My first love is teaching. You know, and well, my first love is diagnostics, but my second love, which actually has surpassed that, is teaching someone the diagnostic side. I've always liked that. I used to annoy people in the shop that I worked at. I'd be like, hey, come here, let me show you how I found this. They'd be like, I don't care. We got work to do. And now I have an audience that, you know, it's cool. I love that. So I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to let you guys roll. I will see you at 11:30 unless you have anything else you want to talk about. Okay. Think about what else over lunch, anything else that I want to know where you guys are, like as a class, as individuals, what works for you, what doesn't work, because I'm not rigid in what I want to do. We can go a lot of different ways and make sure everybody's getting what they need. Okay? All right, thanks guys.